It's finally time. Old versus new. The vintage Neve 1073 design against the latest and maybe greatest Rupert Neve Designs Newton Channel strip. Now, as a recap, the past few weeks on this channel, we were comparing the different periods of Neve designs. So all three, Neve, Focusrite, and Rupert Neve Designs, were founded by Rupert Neve and Focusrite and RND with his wife, Evelyn Neve. And we put them all to the test. So make sure to click over here and watch those previous videos. And today, it's finally time to put the vintage 1073 against the latest Rupert Neve Designs Newton Channel strip. Rupert Neve Designs was founded in 2005, and it's basically the culmination of 6 decades of legendary gear that Rupert Neve has been designing. So we've got our hopes up for Rupert Neve Designs. Is it comparable to a vintage design, the Neve 1073 preamp? Now, what we have in the studio here today is the AML Easy 1073 Pre Mark II, which is made by AML. And AML is owned by Colin, who used to work at the original Neve factory. Now, this is not a vintage unit, but the insides, the circuits, and the transformers are supposed to be as close as you can get to an original vintage unit. Now, on the other corner, we've got the Rupert Neve Designs Newton Channel strip. Rupert Neve himself, he wanted to get a clean preamp. But there's also selectable saturation types. We've got the blue and the red silk. And there's a knob where you can blend how much saturation you want in your signal. And today we're gonna see which one is best. So let's get right into it. But before we do that, please make sure to like and subscribe. It helps my channel grow a ton. As a small YouTuber, these videos take a lot of time to make, and your support means everything. So I recorded the preamps, and the results are interesting. And they're not quite what I expected. What I'm hearing basically is that the 1073 preamp is the brightest to my ears. And then after that is the ISA. It has a little bit more low end and it's less bright, so it's right below the 1073. And then the Rupert Neve Designs preamp, the Newton Channel strip preamp, is the darkest. I find that interesting because I would expect the 1073 to have more low end, a fuller bottom end, and perhaps less highs. But perhaps that boost in that 3K is due to the harmonics that the 1073 adds. And so I pulled up here an instance of Pro Q4 to try and make sense of what we're hearing, or at least what I'm hearing. What I want to use is the sidechain feature of Pro Q4, where you can overlay the frequency analysis spectrum of all instances. And so this is the Pro Q4 on ISA. And then on the side chain, I've got the 1073 overlaid on top of it. And you're gonna see that in red. So if I hit play and I turn freeze on, again, the 1073 is the red and the ISA is the gray. And what we can see is a clear boost or in the low end for the ISA. The 1073 has less of that low end peak. So there's more low end starting at about 200 Hertz downwards in the ISA. From about 200 Hertz and up to about 500 Hertz, they're equal. But then from 500 Hertz and upwards, and especially from 1000 Hertz upwards, there's more upper mids and highs in the 1073. And we can see that there's some red peaks picking out on top of the gray ones. And even though they are the exact same frequencies, because it's the exact same performance recorded through both preamps, we can see that there's more information in the higher mids to highs. Now, something interesting, which is the noise. This is the amplifier noise that we're seeing here. We see that the 1073 has less of those. So there might be some of that top end roll off that we expect to see from a 1073 style preamp. Again, in my ears, the Rupert Neve Designs was even darker than the ISA. So if I, instead of the 1073, overlay the Rupert Neve Designs, and again, this is interesting. We see from 500 Hertz down to about 200 Hertz, we have an almost exact match. And so the level of all the frequencies seem to line up perfectly. The Rupert Neve Designs Newton Channel strip is the red in our display. From 200 Hertz downwards, we see more bass. We see a higher peak in the lower frequencies. And from about just over 500 Hertz, let's say it is more obvious from 1K and above again, we see that the peaks of the Newton Channel strip are lower than those of the ISA. This sort of confirms what my ears are telling me, which is that the Rupert Neve Designs is darker than the ISA, which that is darker than the 1073. Now, if we look at the noise in this one, we don't see that same roll-off that we see in the 1073, but we do see that it's lower in volume than the ISA. So there's less highs, but there's no roll-off. This spectral analysis thing is a very simple test that we can do to sort of visualize what we are hearing. And it's interesting to see that it sort of confirms what my experience is with this preamps. Now, obviously, this does not show us all of the information and all the differences between the preamps, but time and time again, what I do notice is that whenever I use the 1073, it feels more compressed. I hear more of the room tone when I'm using the 1073, whereas the ISA, for example, has more depth. There's more separation between what I'm recording and any room tone. Now, one important thing that I want to add is that these differences that we just pointed out and listened to, I have a sneaking suspicion that they have to do with the impedance. Now, all of these preamps have different impedances. The 1073 has a selectable impedance from 300 ohms to 1200 ohms. And I just pulled up the manual for the ISA because I want to give you the correct information. It has 4 selectable input impedances. It has the low, the ISA 110 impedance, which is the sort of the default impedance, medium impedance, and high impedance. So the low impedance for the ISA is 600 ohms. The ISA 110 impedance is 1400 ohms, medium impedance is 2400 ohms, and the high impedance is 6800 ohms. In our recordings for both of these preamps, I sort of selected the impedance that sounds best to my ears for each instrument that I was recording. Now, the Newton Channel strip has a set impedance, and that's 8900 ohms, which is quite a lot. But if you've got a preamp with selectable impedance, you've probably realized how much of a difference it makes when you flip through the different settings. Now, in the electric guitar example that we're listening to, the impedance I had set for the 1073 was the 300, and for the ISA, it was the ISA 110. There's quite a bit of a difference there, and if I were to guess, that could be why. Now, that being said, while I was recording, I ended up on the ISA 110 preset. I chose it because it sounded best to my ears. Hit that subscribe button and download your free Voyager Series 2 preset pack, or the vocal tracking template for Pro Tools. Both are free, and they absolutely help you work faster and make great records because I am unbiased and objective. I paid a lot of money for that synth, and I'm giving it away for free. Okay, back to the video. Okay, we've heard the vintage Neve against the Focusrite company, Focusrite against Rupert Neve Designs, and today we've heard vintage Neve against Rupert Neve Designs. I'm gonna leave it up to you guys. The truth is, I love all of them. Here in the studio, we own all 3. We've bought the AML, we've bought the ISA, and we've bought the Newton. They're all different, but they all sound amazing. Let me know down in the comments below, what are your thoughts? Which one sounds best to you, and which one are you gonna invest in for your studio? So thank you for sticking along in this 3-part series. I hope you enjoyed watching. Please like and subscribe if you did enjoy. It helps my channel grow a ton. Check down the description because I've got a free Voyager Series 2 preset pack. I made that by sampling my minimal Voyager. I've got a free vocal tracking template for Pro Tools, which is very handy when you're trying to record, comp, edit, and work fast all at the same time. So check those down below. Thank you again so much for your support, and I'll see you guys next time. Have a great day.